Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Thank you for tuning into the channel. On today's episode, I'm going to be making some basic terrain hills using some XPS foam and this scrap piece of 3D printed throwaway that my buddy James found at our local makerspace. To begin with, I took a 1-inch thick piece of green Project Panel XPS insulation foam available at the hardware store, and I took my little throwaway bit that James found at the makerspace. I think it's a 3D print throwaway. I can see some little lines on there, and I guess they just didn't like how it turned out. But for what I'm going to use it for, it's perfect. So I just took this and put it on the XPS foam, and then decided to go ahead and trace out a rough shape to represent the hill upon which this will rest. Once I had a shape that I liked and was big enough for my piece of terrain, I went ahead and took my hot foam cutter and cut that out. Now, I don't have video footage of me doing this, but I do have other videos, and I'll post a card up top where you can watch me play with the hot foam cutter. And here's what everything looks like after I've gone ahead and cut out the basic shape. I do like to have a little bit of a beveled edge on the top of my plateau for my games because I think it gives more a chiseled effect on the rock look. The next thing I did was cut out a smaller piece to add another inch of height to the terrain piece. Also, this allows me to put the 3D print throwaway 3D print trash on top and angle it. I'm also a bit absent-minded, so I did draw in where I wanted these pieces to go. And I took a little miniature, the Easter Bunny that we make, and Blitzen to make sure that there was enough room around the edge of this second layer for a miniature to be positioned and used effectively. I did decide to end up keeping this to be modular, so it's more of a versatile playing piece. There's plenty of room here for the miniatures to be on top, and here's the Easter Bunny. There's plenty of room for him to get full cover and peek over, take a range shot with that gun if he wants. Here's Blitzen, who's quite a bit taller, but he would still also get some full cover from this piece. The next step in this project is to put all of our separate pieces together. I decided to glue these on because they're small, and it's just how I decided to work it out. Now, some terrain folks don't glue these together. They keep them separate, which I think is awesome. You can keep it stackable. So what I did is I put a barbecue skewer, a wooden skewer through the middle, and basically used some Elmer's glue to seal everything and lock it into place. The next thing I did was snip off the excess wooden barbecue skewer. I tried to get this as flush with the XPS insulation foam as possible, but it really doesn't matter because I'll be adding some patio paver and some railroad zero scale ballast to the top. On the bottom side, I went a little hard with the hammering, and it created this great hole, so I just filled that with some Elmer's glue, or any type of PVA glue will work. The next thing I want to do is create some texture to this, since I kind of want to get like a deserty feel or a dirt mound feel. So I'm not going to be doing any flock. So I put on some Elmer's glue, added my patio paver, which I've shown in other videos if you're interested in watching how I do that. I didn't really show all the steps to save for time. And here's where everything looks like when I'm finished. I like to go ahead and push down, and I use a lot of glue for this. This creates a lot of great texture as well as something to dry brush with. Now, I did add some additional ballast from my railroad shop adventure that I went on, and I decided to leave the top piece modular and not glue it on for a couple reasons. One, I really couldn't figure out which way I wanted it to lie, and another one is it just adds more versatility if it's modular. Next thing I did was got my sealant out, shook it up, and put sealant on this entire piece of terrain. I'm going to go ahead and put my card up top if you'd like to know my sealant recipe. It's really easy. And once that's all good and dry, I like to let that sit overnight. I decided to go in with my first paint color, which was cocoa bean. Acrylic paint. And I'm going to use this because I have it. So what I'm going to do is just kind of do my dabs like I do in other painting videos. I want to make sure I hit the sides here probably a little too much paint on that brush right there. Probably too much. So what I'm gonna do is just take it and spread it around, and then see how that big chunk right there, just take that and move the paint all over. So that's the next step on doing this. And I really don't want to edit another 50-minute video, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and then we go on to magic of was able to dry, and I'm just going to show there's a little bit of a gloss shine to it right there, so I'm just going to show what it looks like from this angle. So you see I got everything, tapped everything, and if you look, you can still see there's some black showing through in spots. That's fine. I like that. I like that effect. So the next thing I'm gonna do is go in with a medium brown, if I can find one. So let me go get one. I'll be right back. Is just take little bits of burnt umber and just put it on the piece to create various colors, various different textures and browns. So see how there's now we have 3 colors. We have that black peeking through, the cocoa bean, and the burnt umber. So I'm just gonna go ahead and randomly put that everywhere, and I'll be back. Here's the piece with just the burnt umber, and then I thought I would go in with some Crimson Red Lake, which is from an art craft kit. So here we can see the difference between the two. There's the crimson red there and without. I just think I want to do a little crimson. I don't know why, I just think it adds a little something to it. So I want to do little light bits. See how that's just lightening up and adding another color layer to it. So I guess you could say this is kind of like a dry brush, I guess, a little bit of crimson red on spots. Just adds another little, makes it a little more fiery, I guess, a little more. So if you look here, it's real subtle now. So it's just adding a little tiny bit. It's very subtle. You can see there's the crimson red. It almost makes it a little bit of a coral, and there's just the red. So, and then use the same brush, and so get it on a dry brush, and just hit it in certain spots. So see how that's creating yet a slight variation right there. That's what I'm going for. So I'm just going to keep doing that. Taking this and doing some real light dry brushing areas and spots. So it's just real subtle on yellow spots. A little more prominent on that one. There's another one I did, so you can see where we're going, where we're headed to. Different piece. Alrighty, so the next color I'm going to go with is this ripe tomato from the apple barrel, and I'm just going to dib-dab right in here in the lid and get some of this out. You can see there's my tester that I did before. This is a vermilion, and I didn't want to go with that, so I'm going to go with ripe tomato. And it's just like we've been doing. Just get rid of this paint, this excess paint. And then come over here and dab wherever you think you need to dab on. See how I tap the edges? See right there on the edge? There's a spot, you can totally see the edge right there. And what I did is I just take my brush and I get a dry brush going on, and I just kind of go like that on there. So look closely, it's kind of subtle, but you can see right here where I did it as well. That's what we're looking for. And then on this, I had more paint, so I just kept taking the paint inward. So it's a real subtle technique, but if you, it does, I think, makes a nice difference on the piece. Territorial beige. I also have this loose powder makeup brush. It says loose powder on there. It's a little worn off. I do special effects makeup, and sometimes I do like hag drag. I decided to try a technique I learned about using makeup brushes, specifically the powder brush, because there's all different types of brushes. If you don't do makeup, you probably wouldn't know that, but there's all different kinds of brushes, and this one has a looser bristle to it. So how I like to do dry brush is put the paint on, get a piece of side cardboard or paper, and I get off all the excess. And then I take my skin and I put it on my skin to get an idea of what's going on. Okay, and go to town. And I gotta repeat the process. So, okay, look on this side, see how there's just paint on that side and not on that side? So what I do is I take my brush and I go in this kind of circular motion like that, try and coat it on all the parts of the bristles, right? And then once again, I need to get this and put it on my skin so I can judge how much paint's on there. There's quite a bit of paint on there. So let's see. Okay. Yeah, that's a little too much, I think. Here we go. You can compare and contrast the two with dry brush, without. What is going on? There's a cat fight going on out there. Whatever kind of amount of paint you got on there. Okay, quite a bit of paint. And then take off the paint. Take off the excess. Ooh, scheisse. Okay, and here we go. That's a little more paint than I wanted on there, but oh well, we're gonna go with it. Here are the two pieces together. And what I like to do when I make terrain is I like to try and get all the steps done on the same day. Like I like to dry brush all on the same day, the same pieces that are going to go together, because I'm heavy-handed on one day and I'm light on the other, or I like I said, I can't find this brush on one day and I can find it on the next. However, I will say this is an awesome way to dry brush.